Thundergrunt.
Hey guys!
Bob.
Hey, Bob.
Hey, introduce yourselves.
I am Jimmy George. I am a screenwriter and full-time script consultant. And my Twitter handle is @JimmyRGeorge.
Most important part.
Yes.
I am Jamie Nash. I am a screenwriter. My Twitter handle is @Jamie_Nash.
And I'm Bob Rose. I'm at Thundergrunt Bob. And today you're listening to Writers Blockbusters. It's a show where we treat the final edit of a movie like the script, which is apparently a very unique, weird thing to a lot of people.
People don't understand
They
that.
don't understand that. But if you could think of the logistics of finding all the different variations of a script and doing a podcast on it, go ahead, have fun, do your own podcast. Anyway, today you're going to listen to a podcast where Jimmy George and Bob Rose force Jamie Nash to watch a movie
that
right.
they love, that we love,
that we
when
love
we're
so
kids.
dearly.
Very Clockwork Orange.
Yeah.
We strapped him down, made him eat pizza.
We made him a pizza, yeah.
Stop the voices.
I don't like pepperoni.
Help me.
You know, though, Domino's Pizza has gotten a lot better tasting in the last 30 years.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're going to talk about the original 1990 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, not the Michael Bay produced ones. The original.
Yes. And having its 30th anniversary.
That's why we're talking about it.
Yeah, that's why we're
right?
talking about it.
It's not just to annoy Jamie.
Sad.
Jamie, can you give us some perspective?
I was going to say, really quick, because we did this with a few other movies. Can we go around the table and just say our personal experience?
Yes, that's a good idea.
With the franchise, but with this movie specifically.
Okay.
Let's start with Jimmy, so that's like a fair.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jimmy's wearing his Teenage Mutant Ninja.
He's wearing green.
I got a green
Or
hoodie
St.
on.
Patrick's
Come
Day,
on.
I'm not sure.
I listened to the soundtrack on the way over.
Partners in crime, yo. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
fellow chucker.
I had I saw this movie in the movies when I was 9 years old and 10 years old, and I wore this VHS out so much that the tape broke. So that's how much I loved this movie. I had all the Turtles toys. It hit me right at the right when I was 10. Still into toys. Really, I loved
What
this
year
movie.
would that be?
1990.
90.
And you're how old right now?
So it's all
I am 39.
Right.
So
You're a year older than me.
yeah.
Right.
I'll be 40 in a few months. So technically, yeah.
You're
So-
2 years older than me.
So
Yeah.
I loved this movie. I've probably seen it in my top 10 of the movies I've seen the most. But I haven't revisited it in probably like 20 years.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Jamie.
I'm a Corey Feldman fan. No,
Well, he's got that doc coming up that'll be very revealing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh boy.
Hopefully he did the music for it too. So here's my thing with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Their comic book hit at the height of my comic book nerddom.
Okay.
So the most expensive comic book I own is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #2. I didn't have one, but I had two. A friend of mine for my birthday one year gave it to me when it was already worth like $800, which is about all it's worth today. It would like skyrocket.
It's still worth $800.
Something like in
No
mint,
shit.
I think
Damn.
it's worth even more, and if it get high graded.
Well, with a property that's lasted this long, why wouldn't it be?
It was
Yeah.
like he gave me a $2,000 birthday present when I was like 12 or whatever it was.
That's awesome.
Not that he really thought of it in those terms. He was like, "I got 3 of them.
Yeah,
I don't feel
my
like
gosh.
I don't feel like spending $10 for a present. Here's $2,000." And I was
Jesus.
like, so I still have it in a garage somewhere, folded up.
Oh my
and
gosh.
something. I was telling my wife that the other day, and she's like, "Why don't we sell it?" I'm like, "Well, I don't know. You have to get it graded and all that." crazy
Yeah,
stuff.
that's
So
So if anybody wants to make me an offer, I got one.
Just send him a.
So I was a
Direct
huge,
message.
that was around the time of Frank Miller. I was a big Frank Miller Daredevil guy. Like that was probably my favorite comic. And the Turtles kind of took that and spoofed it. They took the Frank Miller Daredevil stuff and spoofed it. it was. I felt like I was like one of those people that was early to a band with the Turtles because it wasn't a big wide,
Okay.
you know, it was a black and white. It was kind of this weird independent thing at a time when independent comics weren't exactly blowing up.
Yeah.
So Jeppy's Comics in Security Mall. I used to hang out
Yes.
there. We used to know the guy behind the
Love that
desk,
place.
and I used to have a box, and he at probably around issue 3 or 4, probably around there was a Raphael one shot that I got,
okay.
and I own that too. So if you want to make me an offer, I probably have issues about 3 to 15 plus the Raphael one shot and some
Wow.
other ones.
The shame is they reprinted all these
They did.
years ago.
Yeah.
They did.
Yeah.
So I got all those in my box, delivered to me. I read them. I put them away. I was a big fan. I thought it was cool. And then that was after about issue 15, I could care less. I never really liked the comic that much. I preferred the adolescent teenage radioactive hamsters, which was a
I remember
ripoff.
that. I
Yeah.
have that. I have
In
that
3D, 3D
I had that.
glasses.
Yeah.
That used to be hanging on my wall. I used to have the bag
'Cause it was a
pinned to my wall.
spoof.
It was a spoof.
Yeah, spoof.
Yeah.
It was a spoof of a spoof,
So
essentially. Yeah.
It was a spoof of something that was famous at the
Okay,
time. Yeah.
okay.
So
Yes, but yes.
I like the parody aspect. I like the absurdity. I like the underground comic, independent comic kind of aspect. But by the time the movie came, I was a little older. I was probably close to 20-ish, 18.
Is it proper to
something.
ask what your age is right now? Just
No. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm 48, so
Really?
in 90, yeah.
I thought you were like 42, man. Okay.
Oh, man. No.
I didn't know you were that much
No,
older.
at 42, I would have almost hit the age that I could have
Right,
appropriately
yeah.
seen the thing. So I'm trying to think.
Your experience
like-
is way different than ours.
I was like 19 or 20. I was
When-
in college.
Yeah, you saw this when you were
yeah,
20
you're
for the
not
first
the
time.
audience for
Yeah.
this thing. Yeah.
I was watching art films and stuff like that, and I just wasn't that interested.
fucking kids, they're
Yeah.
dumbass turtles.
Yeah, and I was like, they made a movie from the Turtles. This doesn't even look like the thing I used to
Yeah,
pay
yeah,
attention to.
yeah.
So I kind of missed it, but over the years I've tried to watch it, and I never really connected with it. So this is the first time that I remember watched it end to end.
We appreciate
Okay.
you
Yeah,
watching.
thank you,
There you
Jamie.
go.
Yeah.
That's the long history of it.
Well,
Yeah.
mine's slightly different, I guess, than both of you because I didn't see this in theaters.
Okay.
I didn't. For some reason, I missed that boat. But I think it might be because I was slightly younger than you, and my parents didn't think to take me.
Okay.
And obviously the internet didn't exist or anything, so I didn't know to tell them to. But I have a very like Turtles was my entire universe. It was like Ghostbusters and Turtles, the two halves of life. You know what I mean? And maybe The Simpsons somewhere in the top.
Don't they have a crossover comic? I believe
I think they do.
Yeah.
But the one thing I wanted to say is that the first time I ever watched this movie was I had cable television as a kid. I was privileged. And I will never forget the day that I was the day that I walked in a room and at random it was playing on HBO and I literally fell to my knees and started crying
Wow.
because now remember I'm like 8.
because
so-
you're scared of Shredder.
No,
The
because
Shredder.
I'm just saying the reverence, that was the level of reverence
Yeah.
I had. Because to me, I knew there was a movie that existed, but I couldn't see it because you couldn't do that. I didn't know that it was coming on cable. I just remember walking in there and falling to my knees and actually crying and be like, it's here. Oh, it's like I found the Holy Grail. And,
Wow.
and you know, obviously, you know, back then I had no clue. I watched it. It didn't matter if it didn't matter if it was a pile of shit. Didn't
Right,
matter
of
anything.
course not.
It was the best movie
Yeah.
that was ever made.
Yeah.
I've watched it way more since. Jimmy said he hasn't revisited in years. I've been revisiting it for the last 30 years.
Wow,
So
okay.
to me, it's one of my favorite
Yeah,
movies ever.
Wow.
Regardless of all the shitting on it we might do in this episode, I don't care. It's flawless, and I love it.
Okay, there you go.
But I'm willing to talk. I said it's like our Monster Squad
Dissecting it.
episode. It's like our Monster Squad episode.
Yeah.
It's flawless, but here's all the flaws.
Here's the screenwriting lessons.
Right, yeah. And it's, I think also outside of Pixar, it's the only kids movie we've done on this show.
Yeah.
Really?
Monster Squad and Pixar and this.
Midsommar.
Yeah.
Oh.
So Ari asked
Does
me,
Monster
man.
Squad count as...
He's a big
it
hit
counts
with the
as
kids
sort
market.
of a horror movie, doesn't it? Yeah, you're right. I guess Monster Squad counts.
Yeah.
The kids love the Harga.
Yeah.
And Fargo. No, just kidding. Gotta love those the scenes in Midsummer where they slice a pizza up with what's the Swedish food?
I
Sausage?
don't even know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Or when they turn that guy's face into pepperoni.
Yeah.
Right. Well, anyway, first, who wrote this shit, Jamie?
Who wrote this?
Who created the Turtles? Eastman and Laird.
Yeah.
But they're not
Eastman and
involved
Laird.
in the movie.
And by the way, there's a good Toys That Made Us out there.
I haven't seen that.
Yep, I highly recommend it. Like even somebody that's not really into the whole thing, I love that episode because there's a lot of ups and downs. They started with the comic, they licensed it, the toys made decisions, the cartoon made decisions. Those two broke up. One guy got the stuff, one guy seemed bitter. I don't know. It's an interesting one. I highly recommend the Toys That Made Us Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles episode.
As someone who lived as like the person that's one of the people that were responsible for how popular it was. Very great episode.
Yeah, and
because I lived through it.
And as somebody that didn't own a single Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle toy, I loved that. Was probably one of my favorite episodes.
Mine are in a bag in my mom's attic right now.
Wow.
Yeah, I
Still around.
Still have them. Yeah.
I still have issue 2.
Yeah. So if you want to make
claim to fame.
Hey, and if you want to make me an offer, I've got plenty of.
I love how this became an eBay auction.
We're trying to make money. We don't have a Patreon.
It's like the end of every Dr. Phil show. If you ever watch, he always has some ad. My son made these food you can buy. He made some barbecue, and it's always like
Your
this weird
Dr.
intervention.
Phil is pretty good at it. Your Dr. Phil is in bed, man.
It's always like some intervention. Like there's this poor girl. I don't know how to cook, and it's like, well, my son made a brand of barbecue. Anyway, that's that's my favorite part of Dr.
That's his
Phil.
solution. Buy some shit from my family.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like this sad lady. My wife made some makeup, a line of makeup. It's like, okay.
Well, me and Jamie have plenty of merchandise, so hit us up.
That's right.
Now back to screenwriting.
Yeah, now back to screen.
I got
which
a
is way less
Raphael.
important than making some green.
Can't you see Doctor?
Yeah, right.
Can't you see Dr. Phil? I got a Raphael one shot.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 2
Yeah, exactly.
worth $800 in 1991.
Okay, so Eastman and Laird, we already mentioned, they
Yep.
created the comic book. We have story by Bobby Herbeck. Am I reading this right? My glasses.
I thought it was Robert or
It's
Bobby.
Bobby.
Is it
It's
Bobby?
Bobby.
Okay.
And
Bobber?
Tob Langen and Bobby Herbeck were the screenwriters. It's not an ampersand. One rewrote the other, so the Bobby gets the story credit. He was probably the first writer, and then Todd probably came in, did the punch ups,
Gotcha.
and fixed things up afterwards. I read a
The
little thing
second
about
guy
this,
went on to write the sequel,
Okay.
Secret of the
which
Ooze.
is
Secret
also
of the
kind of
Ooze.
telling. I think the first guy didn't totally get maybe the humor or something, the tone, and the second guy came in,
And it
did
kinda
some of
did
that
it, yeah.
work, and then went on to write Secret of the Ooze.
Okay.
His credits, I'll just go through his credits super quick, is pretty much television. It's like the Wonder Years was before that.
Mm.
Several
Yeah.
episodes of the Wonder Years. And a television show called Pursuit of Happiness. And then that's it.
Not the Will Smith movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
That's
stopped.
so
This was
strange.
the end. Well, once you hit the height,
I mean,
you
yeah,
just
you're
quit.
on- yeah.
You're done.
Yeah.
We did it.
Wow.
Yeah. I didn't look up like
I
if
should be so lucky. Fuck.
he's been in prison since or something, you know.
Yeah,
Some
we'll
sad,
find out
some
something
sad
terrible.
tragedy.
Or some
Yeah.
Turtles
my
fan
gosh.
killed him.
Yeah.
Watch
Oh
the
my
movie.
gosh, that would be. Oh.
That'd be terrible. I don't want to lie about that.
He's actually Dr. Phil's son. He makes
Yeah.
He
barbecue.
may-
He's
He's the one with the
I got the
Raphael
most
one shot.
delicious sauce.
the other guy. What stood out to me? He was the writer. His last credit. I'm sorry. He was the actor. That's right. I screwed this up. Because when I first saw it, his first credit is Small Wonder. He wrote 3 episodes of Small Wonder.
Hell yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So he did
He
different
knows comedy.
Yeah.
different strokes. 1 episode, The Jeffersons 1 episode, 3 episodes of Small Wonder, and then Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
What?
That's his career.
What a career.
Is that awesome? or
That's
what?
fantastic.
I would live for that. That'd be amazing. Give that to me.
And he wrote that weird Different Strokes episode where the guy was giving him candy. No, he
The
didn't.
bicycle episode?
Yeah, the creepy.
And then the
Different
director, man. I
Oh,
mean,
so
the
yeah,
stuff,
Steve
yeah.
Barron, man.
Oh my gosh.
Which what did I say to you guys in the chat? We were talking about this. I was like, Steve Barron directed Turtles and Coneheads, so he is a god to me, and I will hear nothing ill about it.
And if you go down that line of the music videos, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
some of
he's
the
done a
most
lot of-
famous music videos ever.
Yeah.
So why are we
Yeah.
talking about this? Let's talk box office. Okay.
Because this is a blockbuster
Yeah.
and an independent film, independently funded.
It was the #1 independent film until Blair Witch Project came and knocked it off.
really.
Knocked it
And
off,
do we
yep.
have any connection to that? Or?
Jeez.
No, never heard of it. So 135 million domestic and 66 million international for 201 million.
In 90, that's
Yeah.
hefty, right?
Yeah, because so if you put that in context, here are the movies from the 90s. Always my favorite part of this whole podcast.
Really, Jamie just wants to list
I just
movies
wanna-
and talk about.
I just
Screw
want
the
to list them.
screenwriting
I don't care
stuff.
about it. This is my favorite part. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was #4.
Damn. Okay.
What beat it? You say
It's 90.
90. Do you know?
Twins.
I like. No. I don't.
90's a weird year that I can't remember stuff
Look
from
who's
90.
talking.
No. One other film we did in this
Dick
podcast.
Tracy.
No. Oh, well, that might be on there. That
Another
was number
film we
9.
did.
Number 9. Okay.
Die Hard 2 was number 7.
Okay.
Total Recall #6. The Hunt for Red October #5. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4.
Well, Bill and Ted's 89, right?
Home Alone #3.
Home Alone.
No, Malone. Home
Damn
Alone
it.
wasn't even number 1.
143. Yeah, that surprises me. Pretty Woman #2.
Okay.
And Ghost, the #1 movie.
Ah,
Fucking Ghost.
I love Ghost. Okay.
Ghost.
Damn.
There you go.
Still, it was in the top 5.
Bruce Joel Rubin,
Yeah.
fantastic
So-
screenwriter.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the one thing I think a lot of people don't know about this movie is the independent aspect. The fact that this had to be this was an independent movie and not like a huge $100 million studio movie.
Yeah.
Is kind of odd, isn't it?
Yeah, they said on the commentary $7 million budget. That's just.
I think it's really impressive for
I
7
think it's
million.
really impressive for
$7
$7
million.
million, even in 1990.
Also, and I'm not. I know, Jamie. I'm saying this without your approval, but to me, this is like a movie that didn't in any way need to have any care or love put into it, and for some reason, it does. And I think as an adult, I watch it now, and I'm like, why did this have? This didn't need to be good.
Right.
It could have been a complete pile of shit, and I would have eaten it up. Why did they obviously care and on a low budget? I was
Yeah.
like, what is behind this movie? The force of it. I still don't know to this day.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
he was talking about on the commentary. He was saying how important it was to them to stay as true as possible to the ninja ways. You know, to be
Yeah.
true to that. And they had a lot of martial arts experts from overseas, so they're also trying to be respectful to their involvement in the story. They didn't want to
There it
patronize.
is.
They didn't want to patronize them
Mhm.
and be like, "Hey, you're actually trained in martial arts. We're gonna make you be involved in a movie that says it's martial arts themed, but isn't actually to that." And he had a lot of reverence for the source material. He was talking about how much he loved the comics. Like he spent a lot of time talking about the characters, which is funny because I don't think it all comes across. But at least he cared. He wanted it to be that way.
I also usually point to this as being like it's the perfect amalgamation. This movie, not the franchise, is the perfect amalgamation of the original source material and the cartoon.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like it has enough of both
Yeah.
to be that perfect line down the middle.
No, I recognize it from the comics because again, I probably watched the show once or twice. I've seen it, the animated show.
It's a hard revisit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
the comic. I remember that Raphael one shot, and I remember Casey Jones and stuff like that.
Yeah.
and that was this stuff looked like that. It
And they
reminded me of
said
that.
he said he took that scene directly from the comics,
Yeah.
and they tried to take as much from the comics as they could, the actual material. So,
Really.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean that's
Let's
pretty
get
much
into it.
That's development, right? That's
Yeah.
because it is a weird movie. I just
Yeah.
to this day I'm like, how come no studio backed this fucking thing?
Well, at the time, nobody was making weird fantasy stuff like this, and
We're
so
watching it now. I'm like, man, this is
And-
such a
and
weird thing to exist.
and he was
It's
and he
what
was
weird
saying
thing.
that he looks back at it now and thinks like this is like when people do weird fantasy stuff all the time. It's like not this is like normal.
Yeah. Well, they remade it.
Yeah.
They didn't remake it, but they made more Turtles movies
Yeah, yeah.
now. So
I'd see these. The weird thing is, what are other movies that had like a costumed animal,
Animatronic,
creature,
yeah.
blah blah blah.
Freaked.
Which one?
Freaked.
What's that?
The Alex Winter movie. Yeah.
Oh, I don't
Yeah.
even know.
The one that Jimmy hasn't seen.
I'm,
Yeah.
sure, I'm sure there's a million that we're not thinking of.
They were saying that
Howie
Like
Mandel.
Never Ending Story.
Because
Howie
there were
Mandel,
so
not-
few,
Yeah, that's probably one.
they took the crew from that storytellers
Right.
show.
The Jim
Chucky?
Henson show.
There was a Jim Henson show that was doing that.
Storyteller. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why they took everybody from that because there was nobody else doing
do it.
anything like it.
That's to me, there's a certain artistry in the. I grew up on the Croft Superstars kind of shows, and there's a certain weird artistry to those, like the HR pup and stuff or
Mhm.
stuff like
Yes,
that.
absolutely.
Sigmund the Sea Monster.
Yeah.
That I kind of view this as a version of that,
An
in a weird sort
extension
way.
of that,
'Cause they,
yeah.
those shows, while they were goofy, kind of took themselves seriously at
Yeah.
times.
Mhm.
At times.
And this takes itself very
Yes,
seriously
absolutely.
for as
For
silly
most
as
of
it
it,
is.
yeah, yeah.
For a serious,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, who's the protagonist?
Who's the protagonist? Yeah, I think it's just the Turtles.
Yeah.
I don't think
Before-
there's a single.
You don't think it's
In my memory, it's Raphael, right? But then,
That's kind of the way I see it.
okay.
But all the
little bit.
turtles
It's
have
hard.
their well, Leo and Raph have
So-
their arcs, and Donnie and Liker
Leo kinda.
kinda. Yeah.
So I was gonna bring up Blake's 6 things that need fixing
Yep.
and kind of dissect
Yep.
it from there. Let's look at that.
Sure,
Right? So
yeah.
for anyone who's not familiar in Save the Cat, which we talk about a lot on this script on this podcast because we do cheeseburgers, the commercialized movies and
We're not talking about art house junk.
right
Yeah.
usually.
That's why we're doing a Ninja Turtles episode.
I'll be teaching a Save the Cat seminar probably. No, this will come out probably after that. Never mind.
I love it. That's right. I forgot.
Yeah, I think it's sold out
In a
anyway.
couple weeks, Jamie is
Yeah.
teaching. You
Well,
should be
well,
the
they-
one to be explaining
well-
the 6 things that need.
Jamie,
Go
will
ahead.
they for that seminar? Will they advertise you were in book 3?
Absolutely.
Oh, they
how
will say that?
Yeah, they say. I'll have them all open up their book. Open up your book.
Looks to page 86.
So I will explain this.
Line
me,
15.
the one who's not in the Save the Cat books and
Yeah.
not teaching a Save the Cat seminar in a few weeks. Okay. Blake says that.
Wrong.
This is directly from that source material. Is in the setup of a movie. You generally can find things that need fixing. And we've talked about in other episodes how many movies set these things up. And they usually define all the subplots and conflicts that you're going to see
Sure.
unfold over the course. So they generally fall into 5 categories: changes in attractiveness and personality, strained personal relationships, not being entrusted with responsibility or not being able to handle responsibility, being invisible to key people, and others don't believe in you or you don't believe in yourself. So the Turtles, changes in attractiveness and personality. The only person who exhibits that is when Casey Jones calls Raphael a freak, and he gets really upset. He screams to the heavens,
right, yeah.
right? So that falls into on the side of Raph being the main character. Raph and the other brothers fight amongst themselves, but it's mainly just Raph. So once again, there's Raphael.
There is a Raph Leo
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. They're
Yeah,
fighting, and there's a running thing of them. So strained personal relationships.
Yeah.
Splinter tells the Turtles they have one lesson before they can be ninjas, before they're ready. So that's like a Black's responsibility, right? You're not ready for the responsibility. That's a thing that needs fixing, but that's for all the Turtles.
Yeah.
Being invisible to key people, the Turtles have to remain invisible. Like that's all of their issues. That's not exclusive to Raphael. And then others don't believe in yourself, or you've given up on yourself. Raph doesn't believe in himself, and once Splinter is gone, all the Turtles don't believe in themselves. So I guess it leans toward Raphael.
He has the most. but,
Yeah.
He has the meatiest arc in the movie.
So you
So-
could say he's the main guy. It's definitely not April.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is
Or Casey.
Danny.
Even. Danny. I was going to say Danny.
all the things that need fixing. Danny has a strained personal relationship with his dad. Danny's dad doesn't trust him with responsibility. It's just really good teaching how you can take this character who has like 10 minutes of screen time and give him all these things, and suddenly you care. So Danny's dad doesn't even trust him to go to school, so he drives him to school, so lacks responsibility. On the streets, he's invisible. Nobody notices him, which allows him to steal things. And then when he's in April's apartment, he's invisible again, which allows him to steal from April. So he's invisible to key people. And Danny's given up on himself. So Danny has all 5 of the categories, and he's on screen in that first act for maybe like 2
Yeah.
minutes. That's pretty impressive.
And talking turkey. I mean, he's in it because they have to give it to a human. They have to give
Right.
this thing. They can't. They don't. I guess they didn't want to hinge it all on the Turtles.
Right.
Also, because you're hinging it on their performances working.
Right. Right.
Which
Yeah.
might not have worked.
He's
Yeah.
you could argue, you put a face on the stakes. How do you make the
yeah.
audience understand the stakes
And feel them. Yeah.
and feel them?
Yeah.
Danny's the face, right? I guess, right?
The heart has to be a human.
Right. That's a good
Just
point.
as the love story has to be a human.
Yeah,
There-
that would have been weird if it would have been like
this
Howard
day-
the Duck
No, to this day, I'm always like, wait, they find her attractive. That's got a lot of questions.
Yeah. But she doesn't reciprocate,
No,
so then it
no.
doesn't fall into Howard the Duck.
Did a Miss Turtle ever come into the world building?
So in the Next Mutation, the live-action TV show, which is not considered canon.
There's a live-action TV show?
There's a live-action Ninja Turtles TV show called The Next Mutation. And
I didn't either.
Venus. Yeah, Venus. I'm pretty sure
funny when he said that.
Venus de Milo was the...
I didn't realize it was the title. I thought he was just saying in the next mutation.
No.
Like,
Yeah.
in Ninja Turtles, The Next Mutation, which was a Power Rangers-esque Ninja Turtles show, which actually crossed over with Power Rangers for an episode.
I sort of remember this.
Venus de Milo was the female turtle, except she wasn't really a turtle. She was an alien that came to Earth and... I know. I know all this. She formed herself in the likeness of them as a female. So,
gotcha.
But she is not considered canon by Eastman and Laird or whatever.
Okay.
But yes, a female turtle did come into the play. Is there an episode where they have sex? I don't know, and I'm not going to watch that show.
They take their shells off.
Yeah, right.
Oh my gosh. So anyway,
Sorry about it. I know that shit.
Are we?
There is a video like that on Pornhub. No, I don't
sure.
know.
There's Ninja Turtle porn. I've seen some
I'm
of it.
sure
It's not
there
good.
is. Oh my gosh.
It's horrific.
Oh my gosh.
Screenwriting.
So are we sort of saying that Raphael is the main character?
I think he's
if you're gonna pick one,
if you have to pick, it is Raph.
he's the face of the team
because he has the arc and the most screen time.
Okay, there you go.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean that just seems, and he has, out of the turtles, he has the most things to fix.
Yeah, it's loose.
Donnie and Mike are pretty much happy who they are.
Yeah, I mean,
and
yeah.
Leo has a struggle, but
that's what I wanted.
Yeah.
This isn't on the talking points, but it is interesting that those personalities, those Leo the leader, Donatello the tech guy, those don't really show up much in this movie. Where in my head, Donatello was the tech guy in this movie, and he's not at all. He doesn't exhibit that whatsoever
because there's just no room for it.
Yeah, it's so interesting.
I think that came more from the cartoon.
From the cartoon, okay.
And they obviously in the Michael Bay movie,
they play it up
completely.
Yeah,
he's like
the guy in the chair.
But I mean, Mike, he's the only personality that's kind of ill-defined. Mikey's obviously pretty defined in this movie.
Yes,
yes. As a non-lover of it, don't you? Yeah. I think their personalities are there. Donnie's definitely the weakest because he doesn't have anything to do.
He's
kind of Mikey's best friend.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Mikey.
Yeah. Right. He's just Mikey's best friend. But Leo's is there.
He's got a little bit. He's trying to be the leader. Yeah.
But Partners in Crime, who wrote the theme song, the reason in the theme song they call Raph the leader of the group, because I believe the song was written from a viewing of the movie, not from any knowledge of the actual turtles.
Okay.
So when the movie came out, anyone who just saw the movie thought Raph was actually...
They perceived it.
Raph perceived as the leader. I could be wrong about that, but I remember reading about that. That's why that song says Raphael, the leader of the group, performed from the norm. Okay. I'm not going to sing the song. Sorry, Jamie.
I thought Vanilla Ice sang the song.
That's two.
That's
the
two.
secret.
I'm just kidding. That's the one I know.
Do you know he has a tattoo because of that?
Ninja Rap.
He has a Turtles tattoo.
Oh my god!
But the thing I like about the Vanilla Ice song, he understands the true dynamic of the turtle.
Oh god, where are we?
Comic obsessions.
Comic obsessions, and this. Why does it say Jimmy Bob?
Because I have no idea.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, Michelangelo.
I figured it was useful because they each have their own personality.
So let's explain comic obsessions for somebody who hasn't heard it before. So this is not something Robert McKee came up with, but it's something I learned from taking a Robert McKee comedy seminar. Said that one way to kind of focus your comedy with a character is to have that character have a blind comic obsession. It's not always blind, but it's funnier when it's blind, when they're something that's normal to them but seems ridiculously obsessive to us.
Good
is where the
example,
comedy
Zombieland with the Twinkies.
Right. Yeah, that's a good one.
Right?
Yeah, there's there's a million.
There's a million.
Them.
I'm just trying to think of a good example.
Yeah. And well, these are good examples.
These are good examples.
Yeah, like Billy Crystal in in When Harry Met Sally, he's obsessed with death. Like
Right.
he reads the end of the book because he's not sure he's gonna live to read the full book when he starts it. Things like that. I didn't find them for all the turtles.
No, but there's some pretty. I mean,
yeah,
obviously,
I think
few.
all the turtles are pizza enthusiasts, and there's a lot of comedy derived out of their.
But Mikey
obsession.
obviously is the lead.
Is
on
the
that,
lead on that one. And
yeah.
Mikey has an obsession with. He has a very innocent crush on April.
Yeah.
There's 3 jokes based around that, so I feel like that qualifies as a comic obsession with April O'Neil.
It's established 3 times.
Yeah,
I guess, that
yeah.
counts,
I mean,
yeah.
at the beginning, yeah. Casey Jones is the one I found interesting. He definitely has an obsession, but I don't know how it ages. I think his toxic masculinity is his comic obsession. Like,
Yeah.
You know, like and using sports equipment as weapons and sports puns. Like there's a sports pun in almost every line that comes out of his mouth.
His need to be macho at every turn.
Right.
Is his
exactly.
comic obsession.
Masculinity
Yeah.
is his comic obsession.
Yeah.
But it's just we've found that when we watch a comedy and we break it down, that this is something that's like an easy way to do gags and things. We even found it in Midsommar.
Yeah, I'm always having the reason I like this is I always have trouble, like, before I go into a script. Let's say I've outlined it. If you don't do a lot of work character-wise, and I don't know that I'm a person that does bios and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I at least like to have their point of view or
Exactly.
their voice.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like if I at least have this nugget, then it would help me. It's kind of their outlook. So, like a character like Ricky Gervais in The Office. I'm trying to think of what his blind obsession was. I don't know why I brought him up because he's such a strong
with
character.
The Office. I always thought his blind obsession is with popularity and friendship.
He thinks he's very popular or something.
But he also wants popularity.
It. He craves it.
Yeah.
But he kind of thinks he's the coolest guy in the office.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
everybody
yeah.
else he's blind to the fact that everybody
Completely
looks at
blind.
him that he's the biggest loser in the
Right.
office.
From his perspective, that's what it is. He's cool.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And-
That's kind of
and-
the blind obsession
And
aspect
that's
of
what
it.
makes it funny.
That's what makes it funny because then
Yeah.
you can go and
Yeah.
write that character like this person thinks they're cool while everybody else thinks they're a loser.
Usually,
Right?
like it's something that falls on like a sidekick character, right?
Mhm.
Like that's kind of where they
Yeah,
always
that's
lie.
how you
Not
give them
the
memorable
protagonist
moments.
doesn't always have a
Doesn't
comic
always,
obsession.
yeah. But we
Yeah.
found it tracks, and it's like a really easy way to
Well, you
take
could
a
even
character
say,
and,
like, Raph's comic obsession. It's not as funny, but his
Mhm.
obsession is, I guess the dynamic with him and Splinter being repaired, right?
interesting. Okay,
It's
I
not
don't-
comic.
Yeah, I don't know if that.
You don't think that
if
is?
that tracks
It doesn't
because it's
track?
not funny.
Okay. Oh, it has to be funny.
Yeah, it's
I
supposed
guess-
to be derived of comedy. Yeah, but
I guess
there's-
all 4 of the teenagers just wanting to party. And kind of be,
I just
being
think I mean, they
teenagers.
all have
Yeah.
they have a funeral for the pizza.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Like that's not just Mikey.
they have a comic obsession with their teenagerdom. How's that?
Yeah, that's better. They're
Yeah,
teenagers.
they still want to be young. We could because you watch the movie and they're like 4 monsters, and you're like, oh right, they're teenagers. Yeah, like, you forget. You're right.
Yeah, that's right. They're giant monsters with muscles, but they're really just
They're kids that are
16-year-olds.
being
Yeah.
forced to
In
be.
some ways, I
ninjas.
think one of their blind obsessions, they're blind to the fact that they're freaks.
That's
They
them,
don't
it's
view themselves.
nothing.
They view themselves.
there
as
is the
normal.
there is
Probably-
the slight through line that they want to go public.
for
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
for that. Yeah, we can talk about with the stakes.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's true. There's a lot of comedy derived out of they're just being themselves.
Right.
And everybody else is like, "What the fuck are these things?"
Yeah,
So that's true.
Mhm.
Yeah, that they're normal,
Right.
except for
right.
Raph,
Which
who
I
thinks
think-
he's a freak.
One of the best jokes in the movie is how New York is so weird in general.
Oh yeah,
it just
the premise
accepts them.
delivery. It's
It's a turtle in a raincoat. You still going to LaGuardia?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
whatever. It doesn't matter. Right.
exactly.
Yeah. But as far as tone.
Yeah, I
Tone.
didn't know what to.
Yeah.
So I think tone honestly is where this movie. The reason I love this movie and I don't so much love the rest of Turtles stuff
Mhm.
because I like the fact that it has stakes and it's more serious and it's not so much for kids as much as it is for kids.
To me, it reminds me of Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I was about to
And,
say
yeah.
that.
No, I think it
it
totally
fits right there.
It
yeah.
sure does.
Because when it needs to be serious, people could die, people could be sad, but at the same time, there's these goofy characters kind of going around the whole thing.
Characters
Right.
get injured.
Yeah. Yeah.
There is death in the movie.
Right.
People experience pain. Yeah.
It's
Like when people get hurt, they're really dire. It's dire, like you said.
the world around them is a little bit more stylized, like you said. Like
Yeah.
a cab driver might mistake a turtle for being a human, which wouldn't necessarily happen in Ghostbusters, for example.
That's true.
So it's not exactly the same, but it still threads the needle between comedy and serious stakes pretty well. Like,
yeah.
like silliness and not to be I'm not using silliness in derogatory terms, but
It
is, it's
works.
silly.
The gags
Yeah.
in between
it's
it
silly.
all. Yeah.
But it's still like the movie, even in execution, it's shot for $7 million. It's shot amazingly well. It's
Right.
like it's
Yeah,
lit
you could
amazingly
probably
well.
create a tone scale for this.
There's a tone scale there.
There's a number on your scale
Of turtles. You
somewhere.
could do a turtle
yeah, you could
tone
do a turtle
scale.
tone
That's
scale.
true.
Yeah,
the
you could.
original comic. This
The
movie would be in the middle.
cartoon
The
and
cartoon.
Michael,
Michael Bay movies would be somewhere in there.
and you could. It's a 7, and it's got to
Yeah,
stay.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and remember, there's like 4 Ninja Turtles cartoons, so you could place them all
Which
on that
one?
scale. Right, there's like 2014 and
But
2004.
You're saying this does a good job of balancing. It all feels
I think
cohesive.
as someone who's
every
watched
moment.
most Turtles fare, I feel like this has the most stakes without also being the original comic. Because the original comic was nothing like the popular Turtles.
The Turtles
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
know they're in a Turtles movie.
Yeah.
In the other movies, they do. Especially when they're rapping with Vanilla Ice.
they're freestyle rapping in a
Yeah.
non-freestyle song. Yeah,
So yeah,
Yeah. we're gonna do that next episode. Don't worry.
so it's sort of like
We're doing all Turtles this month.
it's sort of like the
Writing
80
the turtles.
tonally it's like the 89 Burton Batman versus Batman and Robin.
Yes.
Nipples and
Whereas like the original Turtle source material is probably like Christopher Nolan's Ninja Turtles.
yeah.
Yeah.
Not
So I'll only say this once. They made a movie called Turtles Forever. It's an animated movie based on the 2004 version, I believe, where they actually make all of these jokes. Where they go
Okay.
into different dimensions, and the 80s Turtles meet the new Turtles.
okay.
And 80s Turtles, they meet them, and they're like running down the street chasing a bowling ball and a pizza that are sentient. And they're like, what the hell's going on?
That's great.
They make all these
into
jokes.
the Turtleverse.
Yeah,
kinda.
it's Turtles. It's called Turtles.
Into the Turtleverse.
Yes,
That's exactly.
It's into the Turtleverse, and they even have like screens with all the different versions of the Turtles, and one of them is like the live action versions
Yeah.
and everything. So these jokes have been made. The tonal scale
Yeah,
has actually been commented on in continuity.
Okay. Wow.
So yeah,
But this one it balances
this one's
tone.
I think it
Yeah,
balances tone.
I
pretty
think so
well.
too. Yeah.
Like Jamie said, it really not only does it feel like Ghostbusters, like the New York of Ghostbusters feels like this kind of same New York almost.
yeah, it's the same time period.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
few
It's
years
interesting
removed.
because it nudges a little bit down because it looks like a backlot version
Yeah,
of New York.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whereas
Which it is.
Ghostbusters
It is.
is New York.
New
you
York.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this definitely has that kind of backlot.
What
So it
was the
makes it
budget
look
on Ghostbusters?
cartoony. I don't know what the
Ooh.
budget was.
I don't
It's a
know.
good parallel though, because Ghostbusters cartoon. And,
Yeah, they shot a lot of stuff on location for Ghostbusters, and in this, a lot of it was on. They said the remains of the Big Trouble in Little Chinatown set.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Also, I feel like, tonally speaking, there's really heavy stuff as far as like the flashbacks or the memories.
Well, it is, and then there's like some puppet rat. that
Yeah, I
jumps
know.
out.
But that's what's great about it. It's like so serious. It's like, what was it about, an affair and stuff? And then you see the puppet rat like, yeah. It's just like really fun. Like that's I love that stuff. I love
It
the-
works.
It
Yeah.
always cracks me up how Splinter is like obviously like a puppet kind of thing, and it's
You can't
kind
see
of,
his body.
It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
It's always that part always cracks me. up.
But then like the
Like when he fights
execution
in the
of
end, it cracks me
Splinter is completely dire and serious.
Fantastic.
And,
Yeah,
fantastic.
he's
yeah.
bleeding. He's
Yeah,
he's
right.
chained up. He's dying.
Yeah.
He's the stakes. Absolutely, the stakes you feel for him are real. Definitely.
So I guess the lesson is that it's like the rare kids movie that has stakes.
Stakes.
Like we used to get when we were kids.
Yeah, there's danger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess what I was trying to say is it could have been a movie that didn't even attempt to do anything remotely like that.
Yeah.
Right. They took the.
yeah.
You're saying they took the threats seriously. The
They
threats
took
to the
the
characters.
threat seriously.
Yeah.
Like Jamie said, the turtles don't act like they're the Ninja Turtles that know they are.
They do enough that it's beyond like Bugs Bunny fights. It's like when the ninjas are fighting them, it feels like they actually
So-
could kill them. And when Shredder is fighting them, it
The
feels like he
veritable-
actually would possibly kill one of
the
those.
two
on
sequels
screen.
they made, the veritable difference between this and the two sequels is that the fighting in this is real.
Yes, tangible.
Where in the sequels, they're taking, they can stop a horde of Foot Clan with like a yo-yo. It's like fine, but that's a different type of movie.
Yeah,
you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Like, yeah. I love Secret of the Ooze. I'm not gonna lie, but it's not for the same reason.
Do they have a turtle movie with like Matrix-esque like fighting?
I guess the
You would
Michael
be
Bay ones are closer
I would be
to that.
surprised to hear they didn't.
Because watching this, I was like, I'm surprised they didn't do that.
Remember
Maybe Michael
remember
Bay.
the animated
don't know.
movie? Remember that?
I do.
That has not
Yeah.
Matrix style stuff,
Right.
but that the fighting is more intense.
Okay.
And the show that followed that fighting is way
So,
more
Okay.
intense.
so we need Ang Lee to direct a Turtles movie.
Yeah.
Basically.
I mean, if you really want me to be honest, the second Michael Bay produced Turtles movie, I thought was great.
I fucking love it.
Right?
I love it.
Wasn't that awesome?
I love it. A
Jamie's-
plus from me.
Jamie's
over
not
here.
watching
Jamie's
it.
shaking his head.
I'm a big Megan Fox fan.
Gotcha.
She's the worst part of the movie,
Yeah,
easily.
It's a bummer. But
Yeah. Anyway,
still, I love
let's keep on track.
keep on track.
I love how big of fans we are.
Jamie's
so we
got
can't even-
completely
Nothing
zero
to
enthusiasm for the
I've
brand.
never seen them.
I'm sorry, Jamie.
Thank you for doing
Thank
this.
you.
No, but
To be fair, Jimmy picked it.
I did. I did.
I'm throwing him under the bus.
I'm still hoping to sell that comic book.
Yeah, so
Jamie just sees
so
this as
anyone
an
listening,
eBay auction.
please buy Jamie's comic book to make this worth his time. You at least justify it for him. Okay, let's go to the big elephant
Now,
in the room.
This is it.
Structure.
Jamie, well, let's get you in this.
Come on, Jamie. Shit all over it. Let's do
Jamie,
it.
what is the lock-in? Explain the lock-in.
No, the lock-in. So this movie, I know when I was trying to figure out why it never grabbed my attention or held my attention, because I've tried to watch it many times over the years. I think it's structure.
You know what? Thank you
Mhm.
for trying.
I tried.
Yeah.
Well, I watched it. I watched it all the way through this time to analyze it, and I enjoy it. I think it's a good movie. But I think
Yeah, we did it.
I think the comic, it goes great with this comic book I have. By the way, I also had the first 50 issues of G.I. Joe. If anybody
So everyone wants that.
um,
You can find a list of his.
That's right.
On Craigslist.
so the lock-in moment is usually when you go to see a movie. There's usually a story about a hero with goal, obstacle, and stakes, something like that. And this movie is interesting, well, I'm sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit. The second act usually is about the hero trying to do something. There's an obstacle in the way, and if they don't do it, some horrible thing will happen. This movie, I'm not exactly sure how I'd pitch that.
Yeah.
Because it's not that they're passive, but they almost go away for a little while, and that second act kind of kills me because not a lot happens in the second act.
You mean the farmhouse?
What I consider the second act, which is so it's debatable what the
what's
second
the
act.
lock-in?
I'm
Let's
not
just
sure what it
debate
is.
I don't know.
So-
I'm gonna. What do you think, Bob?
So
I actually don't know either.
it's really
as
tricky.
many fucking times as I've seen the movie.
So here's how I kind of analyze.
but I get what
it.
Jamie's saying, because if you're not like totally into the turtles,
There's two options. Yeah.
you're not
I'm
locked
like-
into that first part, like interest wise.
Yeah.
Where does
so
the
you need
upside
that lock
down
in to
world
come.
begin?
So I think the upside down world happens when Splinter's taken,
Yes.
and
Yes.
now they have to leave the sewer. They're on their own. They're in the real world. Whatever.
And
There's
getting
villains.
him is the problem they need to fix.
Yeah, but they don't
and
actively
Raph.
They're not
attract
trying.
that.
Oh wait,
That's-
wait.
That's the
and
part
Raph's
that doesn't
injury,
grab me.
but Raph being injured.
That comes that comes a little later.
Yeah, it does. But
Splinters, but okay. So here's why I asked that. We've had a couple episodes now with the Groundhog Day one where it was debatable because it was audience perspective versus characters perspective when they perceive it as a problem, whereas and for instance in Back to the Future we said that we know that he's stuck in the past and got to get back to the future 14 minutes before Marty knows. So the end of Act 1 and Lock-In is when we know. And we debated back and forth with whether Groundhog Day is when we know that he's stuck in the same day or 10 minutes later when he knows he's stuck in the same day. So they lose their anonymity, their secretness, when they rescue April and the ninjas see it. They come to the lair and they're like watching her. So like we know, oh shit, like the foot soldiers are gonna come
right,
and
yeah.
do something here. So that's the problem, but they're not aware of it. And the Upside Down world kind of starts with them being in her apartment. They're no longer in the sewers.
Yeah.
It's sunny. They're hanging out with people. They're joking about like life with they're doing pop culture references and telling jokes with that starts way before Splinter. But like you said, like Splinter is the world they know, right? Life with Splinter. So, and he's the problem they got to fix, getting him back. So that happens like 8 minutes later. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
I mean, I was just going to agree with Splinter.
Splinter?
I don't see another answer.
But it's not gripping because of that, is what we're
It
saying.
feels like if I made a log line,
laissez-faire.
if I made a log line, I think the more compelling log line.
The villain and the heroes don't even know each other until right then.
Yeah.
Right,
really.
exactly.
I mean, let's be honest.
That's why I think if I wrote a log line, it would be something like after their leader is captured.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
That's
blah,
the
blah, blah,
problem.
blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound as compelling like after they rescue a girl, they find out about the
Reporter.
world.
Yes.
Kind of,
that's not it.
and
not as compelling.
If I may
Splinter.
defend, because I was just going to be like that.
Mm-hmm.
On paper, I totally agree with you guys, but in execution, I don't necessarily.
Okay.
Because the movie, like we were talking about, also is such a weird aberration.
It is.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I think there's problems. Well, problems or benefits to some examples
yeah,
before the lock-in.
right.
Because what's the catalyst? Is it when he first loses his sai in the
Right.
very beginning?
Right. First scene.
First scene.
Well, yeah, first scene.
And she picks it up.
Yeah, is that the catalyst, or is it later when he's Casey Jonesing and he rescues her from the
Right.
thing?
Yeah.
That feels more like a catalyst
Yeah.
time-wise.
Yeah.
A little late, I guess.
Right. Like 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
That's a long time.
I
for
would
the
probably
catalyst.
say the sigh.
Yeah, to me,
I would have
feels
said
like
the sigh if you asked me.
And that's a really low-key catalyst.
It's very
like,
low-key,
Oh, drop
yeah.
this thing.
Yeah, well, but it's the random event that causes the villains
It
to kind of
sparks
say,
it all.
"What is this?"
Yeah,
or
exactly.
Not really that part, but it's.
Yeah.
And so anyway, it's the whole first act. It's a little, and the one advantage I was going to say to you when you say it works anyway is. I think when you have so many things you can choose from, at least things are happening.
Yeah, things are happening.
Things are
Right,
happening.
yeah.
It's
So who
visually
cares?
interesting.
Who cares about this other stuff? Because I used to always say, I'm not so worried about people that have too many catalysts. I'm worried about people that
Don't have
that don't have any or
Yeah.
wait till it's page
Yeah.
50.
Like stuff just happens because it's time to happen.
Yeah,
and it doesn't have a reason.
Let's say
Yeah.
a movie was 80 pages of catalysts. It probably would be an entertaining movie if if done right. It
Yeah.
might be a little breathless, but that is what cause effect and things
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
So it sort of can work.
Okay.
The danger of having catalysts too early, and I think this movie suffers a little bit from this part, is the setups of this movie are kind of weird. There's some stops and starts, and I'm not
Mhm,
exactly sure. So because it's not traditional, it feels like we send Raphael out just because we need to,
Right.
as opposed to maybe that scene. You could see a different movie where he didn't lose his sign in the beginning, and he went out. Somehow
Yeah.
they saved her later, and then they brought her
Yeah.
back, and
Yeah.
so there's some weird patchiness to the plotting
Yeah.
in the beginning. That's I don't know. To me, that's where I think it used to always lose me. This movie.
Yeah. It's
'cause
got
it'd
a
be like, let's stop.
sloppy setup.
It,
Yeah.
if I may,
It's all there.
it might
um,
rely too much on the personality of the turtles than it does about the story.
Right. It's less interested in the plot.
Like Raphael
which
leaving
is
is
weird
totally
to say about a movie like
right.
this.
But
These movies
right.
are usually
But
incredibly
I
plot
think,
driven.
honestly, that's what I was just about to say.
Yeah.
The reason I think I love this as a grown up more is because it's not plot driven
really
as much as it is.
not.
Like Raph is such a well defined character in this movie, I think.
Yeah.
As far for a kids movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like him leaving, you're right. It's kind of at random, but it's also totally in keeping with his character.
Yeah, he just bolt.
It probably comes from that Raphael one shot that I'm selling as well.
Right,
It might even be
yeah.
that he might have left for some. I don't remember it well enough, but
Yeah.
he teams up with Casey Jones and they're in the park
Yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
But I feel like even all the structural problems, all those things add to the bricks of the character's wall.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they still kind of are there, but it's in a weird succession of stuff. Yeah.
it's just odd. It's something.
odd, yeah.
It's something we're not used to. One in this kind of movie.
Exactly.
This
Yeah.
isn't exactly a Sundance.
No.
Why does
award-winning
this?
movie.
Yeah, why does this movie sometimes feel like it's like an art house?
It
It
does.
does. I think-
Because of its
that's
lack
why
of
it's
studio
so-
involvement.
I think
yeah.
so.
They didn't
Which
get
is-
those things. Yeah.
That's what I love about it.
yeah.
So,
I can see
Now-
He said the notes
yeah.
that he kept getting were about lightness. It wasn't about story. It was about it's too dark, meaning like physically,
It is-
visually dark. They
it's
kept.
a very dark
He
movie.
said
It
he
is
would
very
catch
dark.
he would catch people coming up whispering to the DP like, "Brighten the lights. The lighting's too dark.
Yeah.
Kids don't like the dark."
yeah.
Sounds like.
But I also
Home
think
Alone.
that's why it looks. I think it looks
I
great.
love it.
So,
But
yeah.
anyway, going back to the story, the
Anyway,
setup is
yeah.
sloppy. Yeah.
So so those parts, things keep happening. So you I can see why you might forgive them, especially if you were enamored by the turtles and their personalities and the humor. It's the second act though is where it really loses
Yeah,
me because once Raph gets hurt and they go to the farmhouse, not a lot happens. Turtle
That's
action.
where it becomes
Yeah.
like, wow, this is an art house fucking movie. Like, why?
Reminded me of didn't the Avengers do that in the second?
They did. Yeah.
I was like,
And I love Age of Ultron, so
Yeah,
I guess
they
I'm
did
weird.
do that.
so,
yeah.
so typically the Fun and Games is a movie you come to see. So
Right.
if it's turtles,
Fun and
you're
Games are at the
expecting-
beginning of this movie.
Yeah, it's strange. They're
Yeah.
kinda-
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's almost like I wanted Joel Silver's Whammo board to show up.
Right.
Like that's what I needed.
We're
a
so
little bit.
accustomed
Yeah.
to that experience for this type of movie.
And there's-
and it's a very interesting watch that isn't the
Yeah,
way that
I
is.
know.
There wasn't a Wambo board.
Yeah. So the Fun and Games in this case, like if we assume we get a little bit with the fight on the roof.
right. And then we're going to talk about that sequence
We're
later.
going to talk about that
Yeah.
sequence. Then they just kind of retreat. They go into hiding.
Yeah.
And it's all character work,
It's all character work.
which is so weird for a kids
Yeah.
movie.
But it's character work and then jumps to like the shredder stuff.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
and a little bit of Splinter and that kind of stuff going
Yeah.
on.
Splinter and
It
Danny
also
had their
introduces
own.
the supernatural aspect.
Yeah.
Splinter and Danny
There's
had
a
their own
remember that.
Yeah.
It's a thing I think a lot of people forget.
He wanted to go. He was saying on the commentary he wanted to go a lot more with the astral plane.
Yeah.
He was like, "Let me do the astral plane," and they were like,
That's
"No."
that's always the thing that I really love, that it just kicks it up just a little
Yeah.
more weird by like, wait, Leonardo can speak to Splinter through astral projection.
Yeah.
Wait,
Yeah.
that's the thing that's happening. yeah, like it just
awesome.
adds it.
And then the middle also has the Casey Jones
And
April kind of
April's
relationship
subplot,
story.
yeah. And by the way, one thing that we didn't talk about, it's not writing, but I guess it's writing. I expected her character to not have agency,
Mhm.
and I did like that it ages well. Like she's fighting back against like 4 ninjas before
She
Raphael-
hurts Foot Clan members.
Like
yeah,
it
she's
isn't
not a
until-
damsel, man.
Right. It
Yeah.
not until there's like 25 of them that she needs Raph
She
to step in
also-
and help her. I liked that.
On a smaller
I
scale,
appreciated
she
that.
doesn't take shit from her boss or her job or anything.
She's got a lot of agency.
She's got a ton of
yeah,
agency
and
in
I
the movie.
appreciated that. I
Yeah.
didn't expect that from a 1990
90
kids movie.
Yeah.
It was cool. It
It's
made me go
kinda
like,
like-
that's why April O'Neil's a badass.
If you approach it as what it is, it doesn't work, but it's somehow another thing.
yeah.
It's like there's no reason that a movie like this should be at a farmhouse reflecting on itself and the love of brothership. And
Yeah.
like,
yeah.
There was a part of me when I was watching it, and I don't think it was done this way, but it felt like one of those movies where they were like, well, we have the budget to do like 3 big action scenes,
Yep.
and we got to fill the rest
Yep.
of it.
Yep.
It
Yeah.
felt a little bit like that. And maybe that was a concern.
Maybe that was.
I think
I don't know.
I bet in the commentary this might be mentioned, but it in a lot of ways it seems like a samurai movie.
Yeah.
he didn't really talk about that much.
It just does,
Yeah.
but like structurally, it's weird. It's quiet way more than it's loud.
Yeah. Yes.
It's just like very meditative for
Yeah.
some reason. You know, it's not.
It's strange because it's meditative, but then there'll be like pizza jokes. You know, like
But then you compare it to like Secret of the Ooze, where that's the movie we're expecting.
Right.
Secret of the Ooze was that movie,
Right.
Yeah.
Not this.
not this.
Yeah.
That's why this is like this aberration that held up when I grew up.
And it
I
gets
was
even
like,
weirder. I wanted to ask
Yeah, it
you
gets
guys.
even weirder, yeah.
It gets even weirder, like when you start going to the end of Act 2. Like I don't know what that is. Like, you want to explain the 5-point finale?
Yeah, what is a 5-point finale?
Yeah.
Jimmy?
yeah. So and you're right about the end of Act 2 because I wasn't even sure. It sort of begins like in this weird unorganic or organic sort of way. It just kind
Well,
of
Raph wakes up.
yeah, it kind of like
Right?
just tiptoes into it
Yeah,
as opposed to
that's-
walks. Like it
Right.
doesn't make a bold leap into it.
Right.
It's just kind of like we're in Act 3 now,
but,
I guess.
But we're not really.
Yeah.
Like we're still in Act 2.
So the 5-point finale typically is in Act 3. So this is after like an all is lost moment and all that stuff. The heroes come up with a new plan to save the day. Excuse me. They come up with a plan to save the day. The 5 points are: number one, they gear up. It's a gear up scene. I'm not sure if I'm using the exact terms,
Gathering
but
the team.
Gathering the team. Gathering the team. It's usually like getting the equipment, coming up with a plan. If it was
Right.
Star Wars, it would be like, okay, we got a holograph projection. We got to shoot this
Right.
spot on the Death Star.
Showing you and
Yeah.
training often.
Exactly. The next spot is storm the castle. So usually they try to execute that plan, whatever
Right.
that plan is. Then there's a high tower surprise. Something doesn't go right. There's some twist. The villain was ready for them. There's some other weapon they unveil. Something, another power, whatever. That's the high tower surprise. Then they do a dig down deep, which means they try to they dig down deep to try to come up with a new idea that they could have only come up with because they went through the whole adventure. So it's
Learning the
usually
lesson.
learning the
Yeah.
lesson of the character arc. They execute that into a new plan, and that's how they save the day. And they're the 5 points. This movie,
The weirdest 5
Yes,
point
it's
finale.
really weird.
yeah, because even the heroes,
they kind of get home and get attacked.
yeah, they get
so
him and get
so
attacked.
it's weird.
Yeah.
So I'll see if you guys agree with
The
me.
the
on
turtles are
this.
more passive
They
than
are.
you'd expect them.
Yeah.
to
So
be.
in
then
act-
Stick really
on
even
the farm
saves the
still.
day.
This is on the farm.
Yeah.
They're like, Raph awakens and they make amends, and then April says the turtles are for once again, yet still not whole. A lingering doubt remains, an unknown which they can't bear to face. Their greatest fear.
Voiceover.
And he says, "Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Just voiceover to who, right?" and
To
then
us.
and then Raphael says, "Splinter!" And then so they make a rescue mission to go get Splinter, but then they never actually tried to do it. So we have our gathering the
Well,
team of them
now,
training
the
on
movie-
the farm,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I mean, yeah. But
They're-
I was gonna say they kind of get interrupted. I think in the midst of
Right.
right.
To talk to him.
Yeah.
They start training, gathering the team, and then they talk to Splinter and have that physical connection with him through the astral plane.
Yeah.
And then we're back to gathering the team
Well,
again.
Even weirder is like, where's
Well-
the all is lost moment in that? Like to me, I thought it was
thought it
kill
was
Stick
Raph.
or something.
I think
wasn't sure.
the all is lost moment is Raph's.
Raphael before that.
They think Raph could die.
So that's 56 minutes. It's a little early for
Yeah,
the
it's-
all
yeah, it's
which
really
really
early,
early.
yeah.
Side note: as an adult now, when I think about that part of the plot, I'm like, yeah, you know what? I guess if one of them does get injured, there's no one on Earth that can help them medically.
Yeah.
Like,
Who's going to help
who the
them?
fuck? They have no. There's no
Couldn't you
medicine.
go to a vet?
I guess you
I
could.
guess that would be the most logical
that
thing.
would be
yeah.
incredible premise delivery. Them, instead of showing
They
up
got-
in
they
the ER,
have to go
showing
to
up in a
a
vet.
vet.
I love it.
That
Or
should
an
be.
aquarium.
How has that not been in one of the Ninja Turtles movies?
That's fantastic.
Maybe that's in one of the shows. I'm
It's
forgetting.
gotta be. They have to have used
Yeah.
that. If not, that's why Jamie gets paid the big bucks.
but there it is.
Okay,
Well, they haven't made a Ninja Turtles 3 yet, so
that's right.
yeah.
The gathering. So the gathering the team is like 8 minutes long, and that's like it's usually like a minute. Like it's usually like let's grab our swords and get out of here. So, but the
It's a
gathering
suit up,
team,
right?
it goes from them training in the farm to them talking to Splinter about their plan to them finally getting to New York City, and then they just like sit around and there's even insecurity
they eat
lines.
some pizza. They start
Yeah.
eating pizza and stuff.
And there's like
Well, it's like
insecurity.
it's kind of like they just got back from a vacation.
yeah, they're chilling out, and Raphael
There's
even
no
says,
urgency
But
in the whole
now,
movie
hold
to
on.
saving
To-
Stick.
"Yes,
Now-
yes, you're right."
Now let me just be the counterpoint here. During this time, though, the urgency is coming from Shredder.
Right, he makes his own gathering
makes-
the team plan.
He does
He
his.
has his own
He's
finale.
doing that stuff.
He's got like a 2-point finale.
He's decided that the turtles are his main problem in this whole scheme to take over New York, and he's the one that's
Right.
Right.
and so then it gets even weirder. So they're hanging out back in their lair, and Raphael's like, "Let's go," and they're like, "Why do we need to go?" He's like, "I just don't understand why we're not just going." He like says it, which is an insecurity line. That's like the writer knows that they should get the story going, and they're not, so they're acknowledging it. I see those all the time.
I think, yeah.
like what?
They also don't know what they're dealing with.
Part of it is that,
I know I'm defensive, but
Yeah.
keep
and then
going.
there's that
Yeah.
whole Casey Jones thing just
Yeah,
randomly.
so Casey Jones just coincidentally sees Danny, and then Casey Jones
Yeah, why not make
stumbles into a rescue mission. of
Normally
Splinter.
that
he
would've
doesn't even
been-
know who Splinter is.
that would have been one of the turtles and most people.
Right,
Yeah, yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah.
So then all of a sudden, Casey Jones and Danny rescue Splinter when they didn't even know. Well, when Casey didn't even know that where he basically just has a vague idea who Splinter is. Oh, Splinter, right? Yeah,
because Casey's in his own movie.
right.
Casey is the hero in the movie in his mind.
In his mind.
In his mind.
But so we have this 5-point finale. We have this
I grew my hair out originally because of Casey Jones. Anyway, go
did
ahead.
That could be his blind obsession.
Yeah,
the Turtles
well, I think
never
he wants
actually,
to be with April too, right?
Yeah, the Turtles never actually try to achieve a goal of rescuing Splinter. They never even try to figure out where he is.
That's got to be a production reason.
Like they
Don't you
never
think?
even go. They go, any news from your news report? And they go, no, and they're like, huh, shrug their shoulders. And it feels so weird that is not them. Like, we have to go find his hideout and go rescue our guy. No, it's just Casey Jones just says, who's this guy, kid? What's he doing? And then rescues Splinter.
Rescues Splinter.
And Casey Jones has the showdown in
also,
the hideout.
And also,
against
can I point out that here's another weird thing. Once again, I'm admitting the movie's obviously perfect. Casey Jones has the message. He says verbally the message that the Turtles themselves you'd think would say, where he's like, "You think this is family? You think that over there, that's family? It's not family."
Right. That's
Casey Jones delivers the family message, even though the movie is about their family breaking apart.
yeah.
It's very weird.
It's very.
But like
weird.
I said before, I think who was ever writing it, was trying to put all the
a face
heart
on those
through the humans.
Right. Yeah.
Because they really didn't know if these fucking masks would work.
Right. They didn't know.
They didn't know.
They didn't know if we would connect with the masks.
Yeah.
So you had to
Yeah.
bank on maybe connecting with the people.
You had to connect
Yeah,
with the
that
people.
makes
Those
sense.
the lines need
that
to-
informs that choice.
That informs the choice.
It's fucking weird.
It's weird. I still don't dislike it.
No, I don't
I'm
mind
fine
it.
with it.
I love this.
They're also teenage kids. We kind of forget that the Turtles are kids.
No, but I
They're
mean,
not-
Splinter is kidnapped, and then they don't try to
Yeah.
rescue him. It's fucking weird.
and
But the one of them that would do it is the one that is knocked out for half the movie.
That's true.
Yeah.
I'm just saying he's the one who would instantly go in.
It doesn't feel like a movie either where they debate that fact or
No,
anything.
they
You know,
don't.
like there's another version of that movie where they don't go to rescue them, and that's what they have to learn is that we can do it
we
ourselves.
can do it
We're
together.
brave
the
together.
four of us together, and that's what he teaches them in the seance.
The seance, teaches
but
them, yeah.
but then they don't do anything with it for
It's
a while.
really, it's like the themes are there, like at how an art
Yeah,
house movie
yeah,
would do it,
yeah.
not how a fucking cheeseburger would
The
do
end
it.
was so confusing to me that I watched this movie like a week ago, and
Yeah.
to do the structure, I was like, I must have missed something. And I went back like last night to rewatch it, and I had to rewatch it like 10 times. Like, I think I missed something again. Because it was
ending,
all
yeah.
so weird.
Yeah.
How it came about and how there's just no
Right.
rhyme or reason to
So,
it.
yeah,
And they
'cause
do.
they-
It has the other points. So the Hightower surprise
Mhm.
is at 78 minutes. Shredder arrives after they've defeated all the foot soldiers on the roof. Shredder is the Hightower surprise. Like, oh, they have a secret weapon. It's
Right.
the main villain
Yeah.
that you've
Right.
never met before. I think it tries to do a dig down deep, and that is Shredder holds a spear to Leo's throat, and they decide in the past maybe they would have all charged him, but they decide like we're not gonna fight you.
especially after almost losing Raph.
Right.
Yeah, they decided
so
that, yeah.
Leo's got us, and I think that's trying to be the dig down deep. Like we fight one or we fight not at all. I think that's what it's trying to do, and they try to make that clear by Shredder saying, "Fools, the three of you might have overpowered me with the loss of one. Now your fate will be his." And he tries to kill Leo anyway. And Hightower Surprise Part 2, which we saw in Ready Player One, Splinter arrives, and the Turtles have a secret weapon.
Right,
and
right.
Splinter then executes the new plan, not the Turtles.
Yeah, that was the other weird part. I was like, well, what'd they learn here? And let the other guy do
Let
it.
the other guy
Turtles-
do it, yeah.
The Turtles, after digging down deep, just
Well, 'cause
stand there while their
it's
dad
also like-
does it for them.
It's also, if that's the main, we're talking about like the main plot
It'd
of
be
the
like
movie.
if Obi-Wan Kenobi came
in,
and blew up
Showed
the
up and
his
blew
Death
up,
Star.
blew up the Death Star. That's
But-
exactly what it would be like.
Like I said, it's like an art house movie because it's more concerned with Splinter's arc and his past being resolved than the Turtles themselves.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's amazing to me how incidental they are to the movie.
Yes.
It's weird.
Which, when I grew up and watched it, I appreciate oddly more. I
Yeah,
don't know.
When I was
Like, I don't expect. It doesn't
in
feel
my
like it's.
minds, they are the superheroes who save
Yeah,
the day.
yeah.
But in reality, they just sort
They're
of
still
fight off
kids.
some ninjas.
They're kids that are
and
dealing
then their
with it.
dad saves the day, and all the adults save the day for them.
Yeah.
While they stand around. It's very
Well, they
weird.
still fight.
I mean, no, I
Yeah,
said they
yeah.
fight the foot soldiers,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
then
yeah.
once Shredder's there, they lose to Shredder
'Cause
and
it's
they
a-
just stand there.
It's a fight between adults.
Yeah,
the Foot
exactly.
Clan are just as much. They're kids. They're
yeah,
actual
that's
kids.
true. That's true.
It's a fight between the adults of the children, not the actual children.
So it's
because
very
the children, in the end, Casey Jones brings the children to show them
right.
the faults of the family.
Yeah.
It's like not about the turtles.
Yeah, it's very
which
weird
is very,
in that way.
very fucking weird. It's just really
it works
weird.
though.
I think it works.
I think
but
it works too, and I think it's instructive that it works to say that you can fuck up this 5-point finale, and the Bob Roses and Jimmy Georges of this world 30 years later will still be defending the shit out of it. While the Jamie Nash
Bitches are like, whatever, man.
Here's my comic.
I mean, Jamie, you gotta admit though, it's like it didn't need to be like this. You know what I mean? Like, you know what? They could have made it so much just
Worse, you mean?
not even worse. It just didn't need to even have any thought put
Any
behind
heart. And it's got so much
it. Why does it
heart.
have so much heart?
It's got
There's
so
no
much heart.
reason that stuff at the barn had to be so thoughtful and shit. And it's like it is. Why? Is it, okay. We talked about premise delivery, but
Yeah,
the one thing you really want to talk about is that the Foot Clan
is the
invading.
Foot Clan
yeah.
sequence. So we've never done this, and given how much this is coming across way more positive than I anticipated when I was like, let's do this exercise where we talk about. I think there's one sequence in this movie that's really well done. Like, it holds up, and I know you hate that phrasing, Bob.
I do.
I-
Let's go ahead. continue.
and that is when the Foot Clan invade April's building. It's like sort of in the middle, right? It leads to the midpoint.
It has the best fighting.
It
everything,
has
yeah.
so much. It's got so the things I want to talk about are comic transitions, premise delivery, and then Jamie, you can, when we get there, remind us about good news, bad news, because it's got all those things. It's like a smorgasbord of great craft.
Yeah.
So I'll just break down the beats and then explain them. So Raphael fights an army of foot soldiers atop New York City and building, and inside the apartment, Donatello and Michelangelo, our first big awesome premise delivery in this sequence, they're watching a cartoon rabbit. Tortoise watching the hare, and they're telling the hare to speed up. Damn it, speed up. For premise delivery. April asks, where's Raphael? It cuts to a comic transition of Raphael getting his ass beat. So there's craft right there. Cut back into inside the apartment. Donatello says, he just needs to blow off some steam. And there's another comic transition to Raphael gaining the upper hand and saying, you guys must be studying the abridged book of ninja fighting, which is, once again, dialogue premise delivery.
Right.
It's just non-stop. Awesome. Inside, April shows the turtles the basement antique shop. Mikey crashes a symbol behind Donatello's head, and Donatello shakes and screams, and it cuts to Raphael getting kicked in the head and shaking and screaming. It's like a perfect match. Back inside, April asks Raph, hasn't Raph been gone a long time? And Donatello says, he leaves all the time. He likes it. And it's another comic transition, and this time Raphael's being dragged down the steps, and he's going like, as he's dragged down the steps. This is all happening rapid fire in succession. Inside, right, April then says, are you sure? And Donatello says, don't worry, he'll be back any minute. And he comes crashing through the ceiling on top of them, followed by a bunch of foot soldiers. And then we immediately get the comic dueling nunchuck sequence, which is like in the trailer. That's premise delivery.
Right, yeah.
So these are moments that only work in this movie. So they're like perfect whiteboard premise delivery. And then one of the foot soldiers dunks Donatello into a fish tank.
He can breathe.
And he loves it and then spits the water in his face, which is a thing that would only work in this movie, right? It's fucking awesome. Then the Wheel of Fortune dude moment, Michelangelo goes on his shell, and they spin him around on his shell and knock out like 10-foot soldiers
Only
all
works
at once.
in this movie.
Only works in this movie. Then Donatello rolls using his shell, and he says, California roll, which is more premise delivery that only works in this movie. And then, Jamie, cut me off and do the good news, bad news technique, and I'll hit the good news, bad news.
Good news, bad news. By the way,
On your toes.
By the way, when you were
want to
saying
sell that
too,
comic, don't you?
that's right.
Yeah, dude.
When you were saying all those things, what occurred to me too is when you were whiteboarding this, it's right in the title, right? You could have a whiteboard for Teenage Mutant Ninja and Turtles.
All four of those.
All four of those things, and how they crisscross, how they intersect, how each applies to an action sequence. Each thing could be, so it's a ton of stuff.
Don't forget
Yeah,
the moment at the end when Michelangelo actually retracts into his shell.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
And we really didn't expand, but there's like a ton of great premise delivery. Like, give me 3.
Mhm.
That's a line that only works in this movie. What do you guys like on your pizza? Just the regular stuff: flies, stink bugs.
Right.
right.
The pizza delivery through the sewer scene. That's a scene that
explaining how they get pizza.
and it's the scene exactly. That's the whiteboarding question.
Whiteboard.
How do they get pizza?
How the fuck do they get
so
so much
it's
pizza?
just, and you're right. And there's the teenage part where Shredder is waiting up for him inside, like a teenage
Right.
situation.
Yeah.
Raphael's been out late. The lights flick on. Where have you been?
They're also teenagers in that they're horny and hungry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
right. I mean,
I like that though. The 4 words of the title all have their own premise delivery. They all have their own whiteboard.
They could, yeah, for sure. So good news, bad news. Good news, bad news is just a thing when you're breaking down like an action sequence, or even if you're breaking down your screenplay. I use it actually when I'm initially brainstorming the scenes of my film, and I'll just have a blank piece of paper, and I might have like, I know what the catalyst is, I know what the stuff is. So anyway, good news, it's just simply something good happens, but nope, it's not good. A disaster happens. They have to react, they have to change, and then they have to come up with a new plan. And that's the bad news part before the good news again.
And we've even found that this can be used in transitions.
Absolutely.
Like you end a scene on a positive, and then it immediately starts with something
negative.
terrible happening, or you end a scene on a negative
I
and
think
something great
the
happens
first-
when the next scene starts.
First episode we really covered it was Solo,
Yes.
because Solo had a lot.
Solo
of great,
had a lot of it.
and I mean, in general, Indiana Jones movies have a great in their
we
action
just talked.
scenes,
We
good, bad,
broke
good,
down
bad,
Die
good, bad.
Hard and
Die
Die
Hard.
Hard episode.
Action sequences usually are a series of good news, bad news.
And it's an
Spielberg's
easy way.
a master of this.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's an
yeah.
easy way. It comes instinctively for a lot of people, but
Yeah.
it's a great way to take a scene and go, how do I make it enthralling for this whole action sequence? And you just come
sort
up
of
with
like-
as many good news, bad news things as you can.
What
I
I-
also think the Pirates movies do it really well.
Yes.
But what I've found,
Yes, the Disney. Yeah.
what I've found, and a lot of things do it. One of the ones that to me just was so heavy-handed about it, but I really liked, was the TV show Silicon Valley. If you've ever seen
Oh
that,
yeah.
for whatever reason, everything would be going great. Something would happen, bad news. Now it was a disaster. Good news. So they actually did it in their outlines, 100%.
okay.
And it was always the same outline. It's always like good news, bad news, good news.
So
bad
you
news,
kind
good
of
news,
could
bad news.
predict it.
You could totally watch it and be like, okay,
okay,
well,
what's the bad news?
this bad news thing is about to happen. This good news thing, this bad news thing. And we just keep going.
That's
on.
interesting.
Yeah, it's an interesting show.
So there's a danger of going overboard with it, is what
It
you're
is.
saying.
I mean, that show's a comedy, so
In
it's really about the
moderation.
jokes in the middle and the
Okay.
characters
Like,
and stuff. So
It
doesn't
comes with
matter.
tone. Like if the tone
Right.
allows, you
Yeah.
can do it as much as you want, probably, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So
And
it's
it's
fun.
also, I talk a lot about when I read the scripts. I read about 40 pages of amateur screenplays a day, and a lot of times everything's way too easy. People will try to achieve a goal, and they just do. And there's nothing. One of the number one notes I write is make it harder. And an easy way to make it harder is to find some bad news to throw on top of their efforts, right? Every time, they're about to reach the goal, bad news, something terrible happens, and they've delayed the process of getting the goal. So, but
and to just take a step backwards in our conversation, maybe one of the weird things about this movie is that the goal should be getting Splinter back, but in a weird way, this movie, being the art house movie that it is about them finding themselves as teenagers
and working together,
and working
as a team.
together
And
as a
that
team.
we didn't put that in there either, Jamie. I haven't got to the completing the good news, bad news, but you sometimes talk about how essentially it comes down to 2 arcs, right?
Two arcs.
The gaining confidence or working together as a team.
I haven't said that in a while.
Yeah,
And that's
I'm
the
quoting Jamie.
You're quoting Jamie, but that's the two
That's the
things
one I
in this
couldn't remember.
movie.
In this movie, essentially,
It's
is
not getting Splinter back. It's those two things.
gaining confidence.
I think the
in themselves.
working as a team was one we added. It was
Okay.
the other two.
Okay.
Because then we said, well, there's another one. There's a third. What were those? Gaining confidence and learning to love, or something.
Jogging your
something
memory
else.
here.
I can't remember.
But
Learning to love.
It was something
It
like
was-
that.
something like that,
Some
yeah,
version
yeah.
of
It
that.
made me. This movie made me remember that we've talked about that before, and essentially this is just
We haven't said that. I'll have to go back to the
It's
early
just funny
episodes.
that that's
I
what it
forget.
is, and it's not.
getting.
It's not a
Splinter
mission
back.
movie.
Yeah.
Well, it's that.
It has
It's-
all the ingredients
it's
of a mission movie in it, on the page, on the screen, and then they don't treat. They don't rest.
It's
try
a
to rescue.
soul-searching movie.
But
What a weird thing.
it is weird. But at the end of that sequence that I just broke down with all that craft, here's some more. So, the turtles have defeated all the soldiers that invaded the apartment. That's the good news. The bad news, more soldiers show up and pile in, and the apartment floor collapses and they all fall into the antique shop where the battle continues. The good news, Mikey uses those symbols set up moments ago and crashes the head of a bunch of foot soldiers. The bad news, the turtles are now suddenly losing the battle and we're reminded how they need all four of them. Mikey says, we really could use Raph right now. The good news, Casey shows up and he's their reinforcements and gives them the upper hand momentarily. The bad news, a foot soldier hits a wire with his axe and the place catches fire. The good news, April and the turtles find an escape door and escape the fire through a secret back door. The bad news, April gets a call from Charles at the TV station. She's fired.
Right.
So it's great craft, man.
Yeah,
That sequence is fucking awesome. I love it. Even now, as a 40-year-old man, I love it. I think it's well done. So that was fun.
Yeah. No, this discussion has made me appreciate it more, even with the flaws. But I already knew this. There's always been something very odd about this movie for what it is, and what I always figure, why isn't it not? It should be like Mac and Me or something. You know what I mean? Like some
I get what you're
soulless
saying.
piece of obvious crap, and it's
weird
not.
because it has some of those '90s things
in it.
Like the April scene, it has that weird ET thing that everybody wanted to do. Like, let's hide the weird creature in the closet.
Yeah,
and they
stuff
do
like
it,
that.
yeah.
They do it. So it has a lot of those tropes, but then it's not. Doesn't stick with those that long. Like
Yeah.
it's just like one sequence.
It's
or
like,
something.
oh, we gotta have that moment too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just it's unique
Yeah.
among its brethren, I guess, as far as movies go.
Yeah, we're just talking screenplay, but I think the production of it is probably what makes it most unique.
It's
the darkness,
so cool. Yeah.
the
Like the-
Jim Henson of it.
the Jim
all,
Henson of
you
it.
know.
Right.
I mean, like, just from a lighting
actual martial
perspective,
arts.
Yeah.
the martial arts.
Yeah,
That's
and
the
that-
scene
so-
on the roof with Shredder is lit. It's beautiful. It's like, I think it's awesome.
A martial arts production company is
Yeah.
who bought the rights and gave
Right.
and so they put all of their team
Their
in. They
people,
had
their
been making
stuntmen.
Jackie
I-
Chan movies.
I met the guy who was in the Leonardo costume when I was a kid.
Wow.
He visited the dojo near my
I was
mom's
like,
work.
wait,
Yeah.
a production company that actually makes ninja movies made this movie? Like, I
Yeah.
had no idea.
Yeah, I think I read something like at first the guy didn't get it, and he's like, "Wait, I just make these just like the other movies I make, but we put our guys in the costume."
Exactly. And they brought
And
their
I
whole
think
team over.
If this didn't have the turtles in it, if it wasn't about turtles but human teenagers that were ninjas, I don't know if we'd even question this stuff. It would just be a weird old movie.
yeah, yeah.
But the fact that this was this huge product
Yeah.
from an independent source and a bunch of martial arts masters,
The story is very
The other
interesting.
it's just very odd.
the other weird thing, it's cast a little odd. Like it's not your normal cast for
Right.
a '90s movie. you
Right,
know? Like,
yeah.
Casey Jones and April are just a little different than
Yeah.
you normally cast
Right.
these characters. you know?
Yeah. Yeah, you like Casey Jones isn't like some kind of muscle bound.
He's not
Yeah.
ripped.
They're kind of more
He's just a normal dude.
kind of more real or indie filmish.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, Elias Cotees is a really good actor.
Yeah.
And you could have gotten a lunkhead for that.
Sure.
Right.
But he's like awesome. You know? Yeah, he might be my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah.
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 Well, did we learn anything?
Yeah, I learned that you can have a Turtles, like a movie where the heroes aren't even trying to achieve the goal or after it, and then it works.
Yeah.
Like they're just sort of standing around while other people achieve the goal for them. I didn't expect
Yet
that.
it's still about them.
Yeah, it's very yeah.
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 They kind of had their cake and eat it too.
Yeah,
somehow.
I think it's
Yeah.
because they're constantly fighting off foot soldiers that you're like, well, they are trying. They are doing things. They're just not focused on a goal.
Yeah. Did you learn anything, Jamie?
I think those same things are probably what kept me away from it on an unconscious level. So it's interesting now to go back when I have this language to apply to it.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Because when I watched it before, I was probably like, it's just boring or
Yeah, yeah,
something.
yeah.
Right.
But now I could kind of go back and figure it out and realize why and appreciate, to me, and appreciate why it's also fun. You know, at the same time, I appreciate why I kept watching like 15 minutes of it and then turn it
Yeah,
off, or
yeah.
20 minutes, and I'm like, what is this?
I think the fact that there's craft there, or there's even a voice. There's really a voice here.
Absolutely.
It's a turnoff because it's coming from the Turtles.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, because the Turtles are this kind of crash commercial thing, and then you're
Right.
applying this other thing to it, and it's kind of a strange mix.
Like the cartoon did a disservice to this movie.
Yeah.
If the cartoon didn't exist and nothing past it, and this was just a memory, I feel like it would be treated differently a little bit.
Given a little bit more respect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe even. Yeah.
Strangely enough, like even when I was of age, that age, this was a movie that had a lot of appeal to me in a weird sort of way because it had martial arts. I was into martial arts. It had Jim Henson. I love Jim Henson.
Yes.
I'd watch anything he did.
Yeah.
It had Corey Feldman. I'm the biggest Corey Feldman guy.
Are you seriously?
No,
you might be. I don't know.
I like
Frog
Corey.
Brothers.
I do like Corey Feldman. I'm huge
Do-
Lost Boys
so
fan.
We're
Did-
doing Lost Boys
we're
someday.
Yeah.
Did you ever see the Two Corys show? This has this going somewhere.
Yes.
TV show?
The TV
yeah,
reality show.
the reality show. I've seen it.
There
but I
was a
don't know.
moment
Uh-huh.
where they're having like this heart to heart, the two Corys,
Right.
and Corey Feldman literally, and this show was so staged, but he goes,
Right.
"Don't you think when they didn't call me back to do the voice of Donatello and Super Muse that I hurt too?" And it's like, what the
That's
fucking
awesome.
wonderful. Yeah. Well, thank you, Jamie, for even doing this
Yeah.
movie. I feel like I've said no to so many things, and Jamie didn't say no to this.
He
so
didn't.
I got to be less of a stickler, I guess.
I mean, I hadn't seen it, so
We've
that's
said
a good
this.
thing. It's not like
Yeah.
the ones you say no to are probably ones more you've seen and just don't want to do.
Well, I said no to Game of Thrones.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, we're keeping TV out of this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, that's so. I hadn't seen this, so I had no real rational. Or I had, but I tried it. I never watched it all the way
Right,
through.
right.
So I really didn't have any rational. A lot of the ones you say no to are ones that you've seen, and for some reason you don't want to do them. Which I
I don't
understand
think
more.
they'd have much value.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. I can't remember what else I said no to. It's
But
mainly Game of
Ninja
Thrones.
Turtles.
I think most of the ones you say no to are just temporary no's. Like, couldn't we find something better next week?
Maybe, yeah. Why am I the one saying no too? You guys be. Okay, I think that's everything, right?
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
we covered
Yep.
it. Me and Jimmy got our enthusiasm out.
Yes.
I got my sales pitch out.
Look out
Yep.
for the eBay auction.
Yeah, message Jamie on Twitter if you want that RAF number 2.
Ninja
Ninja Turtles number two.
or RAF one shot.
And if you want to pay a lot of exorbitant amount of money for the figures, I go to my mom's house, get that bag.
This is amazing.
Well, hey, times is
you
rough.
get one chance.
The world is falling apart, Jimmy.
Yes,
If we can
yes.
make a couple bucks while it sinks, why not? Right. All right. I
Thank
think
you
that's
for
everything.
listening, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You have just listened to Writers Blockbusters, a screenwriting podcast featuring 2 professionals and another guy. Available only on Thundergrunt.